AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Jinsook Han. Jinsook is Managing Director and Global Lead of Growth and Strategy for Accenture's Applied Intelligence. Jinsook, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So Jinsook, let's start with yourself. Can you give us a brief background of your journey in technology, where you got started, why you got started, and then some of the roles you've held along the way, taking us to your current position at Accenture?
Sure, happy to. So my career actually has largely three chapters. I started back when Anderson Consulting and Arthur Anderson, was one company. So I'm totally dating myself here, so you can look it up. Um, that was the first 8 years of my life. So I, freshly went out of school, and I came into Arthur Anderson, having interned in also the business consulting side, and worked on external audit, risk consulting. So that's how I got into the consulting side of things, and primarily served the financial services, high tech, and healthcare client. So I dabbled into the financial side and also the risk consulting side of the technology, and then did the MBA. And after that, I joined the consulting company called McKinsey and was in the business technology office, now what's known as digital, for the second set of the 8 years. And because I was working on the strategy and also the technology part, again, I started, continuing to serve the clients in the financial services, also, high tech and healthcare. And there was a long tail of the clients in various industries. And then for the third chapter, which I'm on in, is I had a chance to actually join variety of startups and in the tech world. Instead, I ended up actually going to global insurer called AIG out of surprises. And in the really the coolness spectrum, if you can call it, insurance is not really associated with the high tech or emerging tech, right? And if somebody told me, "Oh, you're gonna go to AIG in the third chapter," I would be like, "Why would I go to insurance? And I don't even serve insurance." But this is when you need to be having an open mind, and you never know what's gonna land, for really being at the right place at the right time, talking to right people. I joined the science group, which the CEO of AIG at the time had a great vision of really employing behavior science, data science, and really the technology part of it into the insurance. So that's how I dabbled into actually the data science. And as a business person and strategy person, had a chance to actually be the interim COO and also the head of the commercial underwriting and claims, working on emerging tech, product management, and different things that actually can enhance how the underwriters and claims adjusters work on the things. So that's where I spent about 3.5 years and had a variety of different roles, including also being on the commercial technology side. And then right now, which I'm in my third year with Accenture, made it back to the old Anderson, but now my role is the chief strategy officer for the global business called Applied Intelligence, which includes artificial intelligence, analytics, automation, and data. So my role actually entails from strategy to incubating capabilities that we're going to do R&D internally, or acquiring companies that actually we want to really build complementary skills in, investing and partnering with companies that actually want to fold into our curated ecosystem, and then working with a variety of the alliance partners, small and big, new and actually established companies, in really serving the clients, whether both in the commercial sector and also the um, government sector.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that background. It's great to hear about your journey, and particularly how a roll of chance can lead to some amazing amazing end results. So the journey at AIG has now taken you here. The description of your role is quite broad. It covers a lot. It's very multifaceted. Can you talk us through how the role came about, how your transition to Accenture happened, and then what was the most appealing part of this project that led you to make the switch?
Sure. So, I really believe in happenstances that can lead to, exciting opportunities. I never thought about actually coming back to Accenture. I believe in leaving a place when you're still have a positive mindset and, you want to be part of a company and also be an alum of the company that you want to be proud of. And I remain so. But this role really was intriguing for me, right? So my official title, as long as you sort of introduced me to, but in layman's terms, is the CSO. And the job that I have right now is not the job that was pitched to me, and that's what I liked about it for this role, but also in the previous role. So the role of the strategy part is pretty clear about developing, what is the next 12, 18 months or 3 to 5 years, which is eternity in the data and AI world. And the half of the things that were told me about were the strategy and acquisitions and things, and the other half came about because once you are inside a company like Accenture, which it surprises a lot of people, we are over 500,000 across the globe. There are actually a dozen countries that are smaller than us,
Wow.
which which really means that you really get to experience the diversity and inclusion of thoughts, right? So beyond things that you check off on the paper for statistics and census purposes, right? And you serve clients also in that diversity, in the broad spectrum on the problems that are so diverse and broad. So it gave me really a good platform, and an amazing, really the spectrum of the stakeholders that you learn from. And then the other half, basically, I crafted with a lot of stakeholders, right? It truly takes a village to do anything. So I don't do anything by myself. Based on the half of the job description of please do strategy, we want to grow through acquisitions and partnerships. And then the rest of it, it was a lot about experimenting and working on things that you have the like-minded people and bring to success, and you keep building credibility and trust to sort of expand the realm of the things that kind of you work on. So that's how I actually developed the diverse portfolio for my role. And also it's a thing about I have been consultant and then going into commercial and enterprise and being a recovering consultant, and now I'm back, and it's more of that diversity of thinking, being able to be exposed to diverse set of really industries, functions, people. So that's how I have been crafting the role, and the journey is continuing.
Thank you so much. So you talked about how you've gone about building a team of like-minded people, but also diversity of thought, and creating a good culture. There's obviously so much for you to do with the role. Can you give us some insight into how you went about building a team and some of the interesting projects that you're currently working on?
Sure. I believe that we are only as good as the people that we work with. So building a team was very important, and I learned a lot about that. In pretty much every places that I've been into, particularly in actually McKinsey and also AIG. There are a lot of experts out there, but there's a difference between a team of experts and an expert team. So the first year that I was at Accenture, it was about understanding how you navigate and how you become resourceful in a place as big and as broad as Accenture. So when I was constructing and the team, it was all about understanding everyone's strength and also their aspirations, right? So not only from the pure assessment perspective, but like what is going to be the chemistry, what is going to be how the team dynamics work, and what are we trying to achieve, and how do we make sure that we continue on the successes that this team has been able to build, but how do we change it? So it's really a lot of rewriting what I call sort of the playbook of what is the team dynamic gonna be, what are we trying to achieve as a team, And then what does the team need to have? And how does the team become an expert team, right? So not a cadre of all the MVPs, but the team that becomes the MVP in collection. So it was a journey. It was a lot of experiments as well. And I tell my team that I consider myself only married to my husband and I'm not married to anything, whether even if it's my own idea. So it was a lot about the experimenting what works and not, and how do we move from team of experts this week to an expert team the next week. What can we learn from it? So that has been, and it continues to be, the journey.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and on your second part of the question about some experiences, I mean, there are a lot of things that we're working through, but a couple of the things that I'll highlight is, we've been featured in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago about, we're boosting AI through a series of acquisitions, and we've done 6 in the 10 months alone. And obviously, we're not an investment boutique shop, but that is definitely a kudos to the expert team that I've been talking about, which spans not only people who are under my direct purview, but also the stakeholders who I really consider the team. And that is not a small feat to achieve. And that only comes through because we've been investing in that in the first 12 and 18 months that, I was at Accenture. And then now we are seeing the fruits of, really that labor and the team of that's coming together. The second example is also on the alliances and partnerships that, we are developing, because Accenture really believes in what we call B3 strategy, right? Build, buy, or borrow, right? Which is very hard to execute. It's easier really said than done, because you have a team of engineers and a lot of people who like to build, and they become your baby, right? And you don't want to throw away your baby, or you don't want anyone to call your baby ugly. But at the same time, what made really Accenture, particularly Applied Intelligence, be the trusted partner of so many clients, over 85% of the Fortune 500 as an example, for more than a decade, is because we don't distinguish between what we build versus what we borrow. So our term for like partnering, or what we buy, which was we acquire and then we try to fold into the family of Accenture. And really putting the problem at hand and what's the outcome first, then what's the combination of build, buy, or borrow. And sometimes the build will not go in there, sometimes the borrow will not go in there, but you need to put client and the outcome first. So in that really vine, my, really going into discussions with different set of partners, whether small or large, right? One day I'm talking to a company that's in the Fortune 50 to become more of a partner and double down on the partnership, and being really one of the team members to co-lead that discussion. And then the next day I'm talking to a startup that has 10 people, right? Or actually maybe not even 10 people, but they have great capabilities and are complementary, that we can really work together. So that's where we get to flex different sets of muscles, and you find out, what does the company's relevancy mean in this day and age? Because AI really levels their playing field. You no longer have to be only a global 50 or Fortune 50 company to be relevant, right? You can be the startup that has only 10 people, but you know how to solve that problem. You have a different approach to make the society better by solving that one problem that you know very well on how to approach it. So those are some of the examples of like how my role, comes to life.
It sounds incredible. You make it sound so interesting, and it sounds like for anyone who wants to be involved in AI and data science, it's a good place to be, given the resources and the investment that's happening. So, Jinsuk, you and I spoke previously, and we were talking about what you're most excited about going forward. One of the things you spoke about that got me very interested was your concept and take on the future of the workforce. Can you speak to that? Give us some insight in how you see the balance of technology and the individual evolving over time.
Sure, it's something that I'm very passionate about, and always find people that have such interesting ideas. So would love to hear your ideas too. So, as a society, AI is here to stay, right? AI is something that's been around for a long time, many decades, depending on, where in the academia or how much of a really scientist somebody was, but it has been around for a long time. The difference is that now, we have a lot of things that are coming together to make that a true reality, that the people like you and I sitting here are already experimenting what the AI and analytics and data are providing, right? When I log into any retailer site, Gap.com, they kind of usually know what I bought, and they try to come up with suggestions and things, and there's an algorithm behind it, right? Or when I actually try to go and research for something, the way that the search engine actually knows what the next word is, maybe, or what is the list of potential things that I might be doing. That's how the data is used, and there's an algorithm and ML behind it. The workforce for the future is this AI will affect every single person in the US and in the globe. And I usually think about it in the concentric circles, in the sense that, yes, we talk a lot about needing more computer scientists, more AI ML engineers, more of these, STEM people. But in reality, that's only the core of how closest to the technology you are. And then you have people who are traditionally are in the IT fields, or in the CIO office, or they're the technicians. They're the people who basically know how to, change. In the old days, all those people's actually the video recorders and camcorders would not be having anything flashing, right? Because they changed the time and others. But now it's more of people who are using the computers. Then you have the super users of who are interacting with the computers all day long. And then there you have people who are professionals and are serving, and they're working from home. They may not use computer all the time, but they're the healthcare professionals, others who are actually using some of the things that are come along. And then there are other people who may not be using some of the computers and AI and ML, but they are the very avid users of their personal devices, right, which carry these things. And then there are people who either maybe too young, or senile, or there might be a different situation or different jobs. Actually, you don't have access to it, but you will only have intermittent access. Regardless of like how close people are, AI data and the automation things will be affecting everyone. And I feel that, and a lot of the agencies and much smarter people than I are working on different topics. I think we as a society, we need to talk about upskilling, reskilling a lot, to have more people who know the technical aspect of it. But I think we also need to educate ourselves, all the citizens in this society, so we know how to interact with AI, ML, or robots, or computers, or smart computers as we call them. Because we are very used to saying, okay, when somebody interacts with a screen, in the Western world, people tend to read in F format, right? So things that are on the upper left corner and then on the left-hand side gets read. And this was a research from, some time ago, right? But in the Eastern world, we understand that people actually generally look at more like in overall circle, right? Even how people read, a screen has an impact on marketing, how people actually put things, placement of ads, and different things. But now, if you imagine that whenever you come to work, no matter what you are interacting with, right, on the IoT, whether that's a fridge, whether that's you're trying to get a snack, or whether you're actually opening a computer and typing in, there's an AI ML that's collecting information, or it's trying to learn from your decisions to become smarter. That actually requires a different way of how we are learning, educated, and interact with a smart computer, right? So I think these are the things that we need to talk, really think about on how do we make that better? How do we make the human-computer interface more reliable, more relevant to the broad set of users that I mentioned in concentric circles? What is the right way to do it? To not just fall into the self-selection bias, how do we make sure that people, even who may not have access 24/7, or when they want it, how do we reach those people? How do we make the technology more egalitarian than it is? there are a lot of talk about the privacy and then ethics and other things which are super important, and people who are working through that, I'm hoping that there is an ontology for the privacy that will come about. But I think this education part, um, from literally cradle to grave, is very much something that we need to really think about, um, and really approach it as a society. And I'm very optimistic. There are a lot of academics and researchers and also the enterprise people talking about this important topic. But it's something that I know I'm very passionate about, and hopefully we'll hear more about it. Maybe in this mentor series, someone will talk about it too.
Absolutely, Jinsook. I think you make a very important point, which many other guests have also made. And it's great to hear you speak about it so passionately. Um, I want to finish on getting some insight into what the next 18 to 24 months look like for you and your team. As you guys continue to invest in these new initiatives and continue to grow, what opportunities are there going to be for individuals listening to this who are interested in being a part of this exciting journey?
Sure. I think the first thing that we are really dealing with right now, a lot of our clients, because of this unprecedented pandemic, there are a lot of wishes that people thought that, oh, I wish we had better connectivity, or I wish that all of my employees were able to access these things. But on top of that, as people are having the Zoom fatigue, not everyone is really used to interacting with 3D human beings on a two-dimensional way for hours and hours a day. So for our, next 12 to 18 months, we are working on actually clients being more ready and getting faster into the environment that they, wish it to be in. And then making sure that, the environment actually becomes more resilient given the health and economic and safety, other things that are coming along. So I think that will be of a really big matter for everyone to really address, for the next foreseeable future, and then also for the future to continue. The second thing that we'll be working on is there will be really an increase of opportunities in thinking about the use cases where the new technology can make things better, right? People's experience, economic situations, also the cycle times. So I think it's a great opportunity for people who are thinking about their career and move as to how do they want to participate, right? Not everyone needs to become a techie and a coder and dealing with the algorithms. There's so many ways where the technology can actually become a fabric of their daily life. And even if they don't want it to be involved in the technology at all, they'll be contributing significantly as a user, and also the data. And how do you voice that in a coherent and a respectful and a professional way that really gets into making things better rather than going into a dispute. So that will be sort of the second thing that I think all of us will be working on, including myself and the teams. And then the third thing is, as we think about all these emerging technologies and different things, we talk a lot about the sustainability, right? And what this sustainability really means. Obviously there's a carbon footprint aspect of it, but the new concept of ESG as to now really thinking about the environmental aspect of it, but also as a person, at a home, at school, work, or in the community, how are we making it things more sustainable, more local source, but also employing technology that actually makes those things possible, are some of the things that we'll be thinking through, both for our clients but ourselves as well.
Jinsook, that's really great to hear. Thank you so much for your time. This has been an incredible learning lesson for myself, and I hope everyone else listening has enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing what you guys and your team can accomplish in the future.
Thank you for having me.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.